Welcome to Give It a Nudge. Today we are extremely lucky. We have Adrien from Sleek on the show. I met Adrien, maybe 3-4 years ago when the Nudge Group launched into Singapore, and they were epic in terms of setting up our business there. And he is now launching all over the world. So welcome to the show, Adrien.
Hi, sorry.
How are things now you're here? How is it being in Australia? You've been here a year?
Yeah, slightly less than a year actually, and it's really great because launching a new market is again going from 0 to 1.
Yep.
And that's really like the phase in a startup life that I really cherish the most.
That's the bit you love.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most painful one, but also like the most interesting one because you're really learning on how to make fire.
Yeah.
We've been doing that in a few countries, and Australia is currently at the center of my attention.
I like the 0 to 1 phase. That's my favorite phase.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
But let's talk about it in your own words, because I like people to hear exactly you describe it. Tell everyone in our audience, what does Sleek do if they haven't already heard of you?
Cool. So at Sleek, we like to say that we're giving back time to entrepreneurs by taking away all of the admin and tax pain off their plate, actually. To give you a bit of background story, I spent 7 years as an e-commerce entrepreneur in Southeast Asia. And during 7 years, the rock in my shoe was the admin part of the business. Actually, I was dealing with accountants that were like super traditional, so everything paper-based, very expensive, and they could not care less about their clients, actually. So I decided to stop being French at some point and build a solution to instead of just complain on how miserable I was.
Is that what being French is about?
Yeah, I mean, my country is really famous for strikes and complaining. So
and smoking.
And smoking, correct. But I don't smoke, I just complain and build solutions. We decided to build a platform that replaces or at least streamlines the work of accountants, making them more efficient and in the cloud with a transparent pricing and obsessed by their clients. So that's what we've been doing for the past 7 years now. So we started in Singapore in 2017, launched in Hong Kong in 2019, and during COVID we were blocked in these two clusters, and we took advantage of COVID to actually remotely open the UK and also Australia back in 2022.
Fantastic. And I guess it's not just basic accounting. You also do the setup, right? Because that's what you did for me in Singapore, which is notoriously difficult to set up, or used to be notoriously difficult to set up. And I forget who recommended me to you, but I remember it was a seamless, easy process, which still stuns me to this day, in terms of actually getting the company set up, getting the director in, getting the bank account, the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, exactly. So the very, very beginning was, when you deal with an accountant, it's because either you have a company or you want to launch a new one. We started with the new company launch as the entry door for us, and we built an app that streamlines the company registration. And then the segue to accounting was natural, because the second thing you do after registering a business is to actually start freaking out on your next business activity statement or your next payroll exercise, or about crossing a line that the ATO will actually remember. So we're really present on these two product pillars, and that's how we've been building our apps since day one, actually.
Super cool. All right, well, let's go a little bit back into you. I want to hear a bit about you because this is something I don't know, before we talk any more about Sleek. So you mentioned just before we started that you're an e-commerce entrepreneur. Tell me a little bit about, did you have a corporate career? Were you always entrepreneurial? Because you're obviously quite young still.
Thanks. So I started actually I've never worked in France, so that's a statement.
Really? So you left school and bang, you were gone?
Yeah, I did an internship in Paris, and everyone was really great, unhappy in the subway. I was like, this is not the life I want. So and in 2008, I had done an internship in China. I traveled a bit, and I freaking loved Asia, because everything was moving really fast. And right after business school, I went straight to Indonesia, where I was the head of e-commerce for Carrefour, so the French Woolies there. And they were crazy enough to actually give me a bit of budget and a platform to deploy there. So I actually took the opportunity, and during 2 years, I launched an e-commerce platform selling tons of rice and diapers in a very French, I would say, slow company and very political. So after 2 years, when my contract was over, I was like, I'm not staying here. And then I had the opportunity to join the founding team of Luxola.com, a very, very small nascent e-commerce website of high-end cosmetics in Singapore. So basically, they were bringing e-commerce cosmetic brands from the US, Europe, and Korea into Singapore first.
Yep.
And I was there. Yeah, I joined them as their CMO. It was in 2013, sorry. And then, we scaled to 11 countries, including Australia and New Zealand. So my first encounter with Australia was actually selling lipstick and blush. So
that is quite French.
Yeah, that's as you can see, I'm also like very into like men's grooming. No, not at all. Actually.
That's why you look so young.
Yeah,
right?
Thanks. So yeah, I mean, everything was about really like data and bringing new products to new markets, and I really loved it. So we scaled to 11 markets and like the whole of Asia Pacific. And in 2015, we sold the business to Sephora.
Yeah.
So again, I left a big French company to then find myself again in a big French company. So this time it was a little bit different, probably because the gross margin of Sephora is much sexier than actually the one at Carrefour.
Yep.
But I stayed 2 years with them, and then I realized that my true pain point was in the accounting space actually, because throughout the expansions that we had done, setting up new entities, growing a business, I really realized that my biggest pain point was my accountant, and not really like the number of tons of lipsticks that we're going to sell from one country to another. So yeah,
it's funny. I was actually on a podcast myself this morning for someone else, and they were asking me what was the thing I'd learned the most in the companies that I'd created and sold. And I said, it's that when you're dealing with professionals, whether it be accounting or law firm, you can't just give it to them and leave it alone. You've got to take some accountability for yourself. And I'm not suggesting that with you, but I think when you look at these more traditional firms, they take very little accountability for the work that they do. And there's nothing you can do if they don't do a great job. There's literally nothing.
Absolutely. So I was really like, just to give a little anecdote. So at the very beginning, when with my co-founder, we were like, assessing the market.
Yep.
We started to actually engage like as mystery clients with a few of these operators, and like each time the experience with their sales was horrendous.
Yeah.
Then we downloaded their financial statements, looked at they were making 40% EBITDA for a negative satisfaction review. So it was making nonsense.
Yeah.
And again, as you said, there is zero accountability on their end to actually improve the experience because they're making a nice little return. Why change, actually?
Yep.
So that's the thing that we went to fight against.
Terrifying. Terrifying that people actually think that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's scary.
Okay, so let's go back to Sleek. So obviously, how's the UK going first?
UK is really an interesting market.
Being British, I like to, go straight there.
It's actually a bigger market than Australia. So
much bigger market than Australia. I know it's much smaller in size, but much bigger.
Exactly. So you have like twice the number of company registrations compared to Australia. So around like 780,000 a year. It's really a booming market, but also like lots of people not caring about accounting. So it's actually a great opportunity for us. At the opposite, Australia is really a market where everyone is really conscious of the power of the ATO.
Yes.
So everyone knows when, the taxman actually knocks at the door, that it's a really bad time. So everybody is a little bit more cautious and, planning ahead actually compared to the UK.
It's interesting you say that. Like I obviously have entities in both as well as Singapore. And I'm terrified of anyone in Singapore. I'm just terrified of any kind of government entity in Singapore. I don't know why, because you just are, right? It's technically a dictatorship. Here, everyone is terrified of the ATO. In the UK, no one cares about it. Like they literally don't care. And I noticed on the odd occasion, and as you know, we've moved accounting to you because our last company was so bad, it was unbelievable. We missed a whole bunch of deadlines, and they didn't even notice. We actually had to ring them to tell them that we had missed things. Like it just seems very, very different. I found that fascinating. I'm
not really surprised. Having been in that really cockroach industry for 7 years, we're seeing very, very often such surreal situations where your accountant actually forgot about your tax deadline.
They completely
and
forgot.
You're paying that guy actually thousands of dollars a year, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I forgot." What the hell?
There's also a 3-day average response time to an email or phone call, which I just cannot get my head around.
No, me neither, actually. That whole industry. In any case, when you look at every single AI analysis or like future of industry report, accountant is systematically, the accounting space is systematically in the top 3 professions that will actually be disrupted by generative AI.
And what's your thoughts on this? Let's touch on this more. I'm intrigued because it's up there as one of the ones that not will be replaced, because nothing will be replaced, but it's going to be disruptive. So talk to me about your thoughts on this.
So, like since day one at Slick, we believed that humans are at the center of the equation. Like you will never remove humans, between an entrepreneur and the taxman, because you still need that psychological support on understanding that what you're doing is actually fine, that you're not crossing a red line. So we do believe that humans will remain in the equation.
I agree.
That being said, most of the work that a bookkeeper or an accountant do, like in a manual fashion, is freaking boring and a waste of time. So in other words, what we believe in is actually in a future where humans will be like supercharged by tech, actually. So, and that's what we've been building over the years. It's like a set of apps that automate the manual work, the grunt work of accountants, so that they can really be laser focused on providing a great service to their clients, actually, and to spend time with them, actually. Because at the end of the day, like an accountant, he's fond of tax and how to manage your business and so on, but what they really like is actually to spend time with their clients, like providing advisory and giving added value. They don't really like crunching numbers and being spending the whole day on Excel. Actually.
Some do, but not many.
Yeah, exactly. But
tell me, how do you you talk about that interaction. How do you do that now in terms of advisory work? I mean, in fact, do you have an app? Do you have a platform that you interact with people, or is it all face to face? And how's that? And are you looking at changing that? I guess.
Yeah, so we're web-based, so we don't have a mobile app at this stage. Need a mobile app. But we're web-based. Like close to a third of our clients go through the process on their own. They just onboard themselves, and then after they meet their accountant for chit chats. But then 2/3 of our clients actually they prefer to actually speak to a human. So speaking to a human happens in 99% of the cases, in a virtual fashion, so through calls or on the phone. And then after, the whole onboarding is really seamless. It's online. I like to say that it's as difficult as buying a flight tickets. So everyone can do it. So today everyone can actually register a company and manage it effortlessly with us.
But no one wants to. They want someone else to do it for them, ideally.
Exactly,
well, I know I do. And so what's the future? I mean, obviously you're growing into new markets and so forth. Are you branching the advisory services out? Is there new products coming out? Is there anything like that you want to give us a little inside scoop on? Or is it really more just about scale right now?
So, given the changes worldwide, in the funding space, so now everybody is laser focused on being profitable. So that's a good thing. Because
that is a good thing.
We had started a bit ahead. So right now, we're in 4 markets. The goal is really to reinforce our positioning on these 4 markets. We're market leaders in Singapore and Hong Kong. And we intend to accelerate big time in the UK and also in Australia, where we arrived again a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so not long.
It's pretty recent. Then in terms of products, so now we're not only an accounting firm and also a company registration firm in Singapore and the UK, but we also have a payment license that actually allows us to open deposit accounts and give you a business card, so that then you can actually start spending and actually getting payments. Yeah. So we realized a few years in that the third person that you hate the most when you're an entrepreneur is actually your banker, because he never replies within 72 hours, 3 days. He's expensive and his tech never evolves actually. So, and we realized that our clients had very limited needs. So you can think it of something like Airwallex plugged to our company, so that you can really manage effortlessly your funds and pay out suppliers, getting paid from clients. So that's actually the product vision that we've been working on since day one, and that's the one that we will also look at expanding. Rolling out to each one of our market. But
have you thought about invoice financing with that? Is that part of it or not quite?
I don't think this is something that we ever do ourselves. But connecting our platform to a third party via APIs, definitely. We're having discussions with plenty of people about that.
That's super cool. So look, you've achieved a hell of a lot. What are you, 150 people now, 4 countries, right? That's
we're 450 actually.
450.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that, because I think a lot of people go through that period of that startup to scale up, right? You're arguably in scale up territory now, very much. It's an interesting time. You know, you go from having a whole bunch of people who are kind of doing everything and dealing with ambiguity to suddenly, okay, now you've got a specific role and we need people to stay in their lanes so that we do everything, you know, at a level of excellence. Mm-hmm. That's quite a difficult period for a business to go through. It's also quite a difficult period for a founder to go through because your role completely changes as well. How did you find that process of making that leap from, you know, being dominant in Singapore and Hong Kong to now suddenly having 4 markets and having a much, much larger team?
I guess it all goes back to the quality of people that we have in the team. So hiring amazing people is the priority.
Yes.
We were very fortunate. So we right now have like a leadership team that's excellent. And that took away lots of the really painful blocks that my co-founder and I were managing to date. So right now I'm really at peace with our operations in the grown-up markets such as Singapore, Hong Kong, and also like the UK. And they're really taking care of that and getting us to like a level of excellence that I don't think I would have been able to to achieve. But for my own little self, I'm actually good from 0 to 1. Mm-hmm. When it's actually scrappy, when you get to not think too much and just act and then iterate if it's actually not working.
Yep.
So I guess I'm constantly balancing in that schizophrenia between being at a seed level here in Australia because we're really accelerating and doing things quick and dirty, and also at a much more grown up and scale up phase. Such as the state of the operations in the 3 other markets where we are actually. But again, stopping the segue here and going back to your point, it's all about having the right people at the right spot. And then after, I'd say, shifting, I would say, the accountability from local hustlers to global excellent leaders. When actually you feel that you have achieved product market fit and that you're on for a home run actually.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think has been the hardest thing then, out of all the things that you've gone through in the last 7 years?
I think
not the hardest. What surprised you the most, or maybe both?
Okay. I think I said that people is my center of pride because we have a great team. But at the same time, it's also my biggest frustration because it's so hard. I mean, no one teaches you how to hire great people.
Yes, I know that only too well.
Yeah, I mean, you've been in that. You live and you breathe.
That's all I know. Yeah, that's all I know.
So there is no science. So it's learning by doing. So I have to admit, I made a lot of mistakes. And we learned a lot, but that's what matters at the end of the day. And it's about looking at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I failed. This is what I learned, and this is what I'm going to do differently going forward. Actually.
Yeah, fine. I think that if you learn from everything, that's amazing. I don't learn from everything. I learn from most things, but I do find I make the odd mistake more than once, which is probably the most frustrating thing I think I've ever experienced in my entire life. But hopefully you haven't had that happen to you yet.
Not yet. But I mean, look, I may sound very American in saying, I only learn, I don't, make mistakes. But no, it's painful. Sometimes you really wonder, why am I in this washing machine, running at 1,800 tours a minute?
Yep.
Because it has been 7 years, but lots of learnings, of course, lots of failures, but lots of fun.
Goes fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, too fast.
Well, that's like a lot of things. So tell me, what's been your favorite thing, other than obviously we chatted that you love that 0 to 1, but if there's something that maybe your proudest moment, not of yourself, but of just oh wow, that's just happened. Because I think we all have those as entrepreneurs, and then you forget about them because you've got to get on with other stuff. And I don't think we necessarily reflect on them. So I like to ask that question because it's good for sometimes founders to think about that.
I think I know exactly what you want to talk about. It's that moment where you feel that the company is not interested, linked to you, and when actually it can fly with its own wings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So funny story in 2018. So I went to India to do some skiing.
Yep. In India?
Yeah, in the northern part of India, in Kashmir, like really amazing spot. So it was like, ski touring for a week. And stupidly, like the lodge where we were staying actually had Wi-Fi. So I was like, great, I'm going to, put in some 3-4 hours of work every night. So I was
in India.
I was very bullish about
see where this is
my
going.
ability to work. And I was like, I'll take my laptop, guys. I'll be online every night. And so I arrived there, no network, no Wi-Fi, obviously for a week. So the first 2 days really felt like, I was like not feeling okay. And then I was like, okay, fine. I'm with, my best mates from Europe that had flown there to like come ski with me.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I'm stuck here for a week, fine. So I enjoyed skiing for a week. It was amazing. And as I, landed back in Delhi and
anxiety
recovered, so I was like, okay. So, when I switched the airplane mode off.
Yeah.
And then just a Christmas tree of notifications. But then I realized, wait, the company is still alive. Like everybody has taken its, responsibility and, has solved problems. So that was really like a eureka moment, actually. After a few hours of anxiety, I was like, okay, fine, I'm not needed anymore.
That's the best.
I'm needed, but in a different manner. So then I think after that trip, I stopped being the flying Adrien, being everywhere, and more like, letting go and just like letting people do and making their own mistakes. It's a bit painful at first to see someone making a mistake that you knew was going to happen.
Yes.
But after that, like that person will most likely not make the same mistake.
It's a horrible experience watching that. It's like watching a sort of slowed down car crash. There's nothing enjoyable about it. It's just terrible.
Yeah, exactly. But fortunately, then it comes with a profit.
You do have to let it
crash,
happen.
But
it does. You do have to let it. It's funny you talk about the airplane mode. I was just in New Zealand this weekend. There was a whole 20 of us, and we were out trekking, and there was no signal for 3 days. And then the bus picks you up and it's driving you back to Queenstown. And there's this moment, well, no, everyone's not got aeroplane mode on, right?
Okay.
But there's been no signal because you're just in the middle of nowhere. And suddenly, everyone's just sitting there and they've almost forgotten about their phones. And it might be 2 more hours before you get to go to it. It must have hit a signal. Every phone started going ding, 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 ding. The whole bus just went off like a Christmas tree, exactly. And everyone's anxiety levels just went through the roof.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I guess we're addicted to these things.
We are.
Everyone is really conscious that it's bad for you if you're too much wired to it.
Yep.
But yet you're like addicted and you're not doing much actually to move away from that. Actually.
Yeah.
So.
And a question around the global expansion. Obviously, as we talked about, you're French. You then went to work in Indonesia. Then you went to Singapore, London, Australia. A lot of cultural differences in all of those places. Probably England, Australia is the closest, but there's still a lot of changes there. Singapore, very different to Indonesia. How did you sort of get around that and work that out? Was it a trial by error, or did you just look at local people? Or because there are huge, huge differences in all of those markets, and Hong Kong too, right?
Yeah, so I mean, since I'm a kid, actually, I moved like places and countries every 3-4 years. So I guess at the very beginning, it was a bit traumatic to change friends. Like, every 3 years, I was like, asking my parents, why are we again changing friends? And after, like, it became something that, it became clearly a virus.
Yeah.
So when coming into like a new place, it's, everything is about listening, asking questions and understanding how, like, this place is rolling. And then after, you go with the flow. But it's about really like understanding the markets, the rules, the culture, how things actually happen because they happen for a reason.
Yep.
And then after, just like, build your system and plug it.
Interesting. I think your overall message there, and I'd love to hear everyone was asked this question, but people do love it. If there's one piece of advice you give someone who's about to go into that scale up phase, I think almost you're going to say go with the flow because that's sort of come out in your answers a little bit. But yeah, what would you say to that person? A lot of our clients particularly are sort of seed Series A about to go into B, which is the real difficult part. Any particular words of wisdom that you say to them?
Hire the right people because like a bad hire will just like kill your days.
Yep, this is great for me, by the way. Saying this is fantastic. I didn't set this up.
I don't have any shares on like that. But yeah, a great person, a great hire will just like change your days and change like almost your life.
Yep.
I mean, life is not about business, but it's quite close actually sometimes. But yeah, it will drastically change your days. And yeah, I had a couple of eureka moments in the past. And yeah, so I would say that people is everything. So to be really, really careful about that. And then after it's perhaps learn how to discipline yourself and to organize yourself to be productive. I'm still finding my way, on how to discipline myself and to be productive. I was thinking about this
morning. How can I get better at that?
It's the never-ending quest, actually. So I don't know. I've got my own system, but it changes every 3-4 months.
That's the problem, is you get your system and then you realize it's not working because everything's changed in the last 3-4 months.
No, it's a pain, but that's the ongoing joke from my wife, because she's like, "You're a mess," but it's an artistic mess, I would say. I know how I work, I know what I'm doing, but it's just I would love to be more productive. Obviously, I listen and watch a lot of podcasts, and I'm amazed by all these guys that can do so many things during the day and that are so structured. At some point, I think I need to, again, look at myself in the mirror and be like, Adrien, you're not like them, you're different. So
that's a good way to look at it.
I haven't gotten to this point yet, but I'm getting closer, I think.
Well, that's good. Well, last question, and you segued nicely into it. You're going to continue to grow. The success is, you've found your product market fit, as you said. It's just a matter of executing. People are going to want to work for you. Tell me, in your words, why is it so good to work at Sleek?
I think at Sleek, we're, first, that's not really the first company that we've launched. So we are very conscious that people are everything for the organization. And as such, we've created a really nice, safe space with great sets of values that actually allow everyone to express themselves, to build and to be accountable for building, a piece of Sleek, actually. Whether big or small, you're building a piece of it, actually. So the values, and I know it's going to sound cheesy, so it's Sleek. So they're simplicity, loyalty, entrepreneurship, excellence, and kindness. In other words, we're just a bunch of nice people. We're here to have fun, and we're here to also trust you with your ideas, so that you can also take part in building something. And that's actually quite funny, but we've scaled to multiple markets, and we've got people in more than these 4 markets. And each time we've managed to build a similar DNA, although we sometimes have never met in person, actually. So just by spending hours, talking to people, you're able to really, build and just, propel your culture, actually. So I think the values is definitely the one reason for which people really like to work at Sleek, actually.
I love the fact you've tied your values into your name. I have never seen anyone do that before, and I've met a lot of people.
So, I don't think it was done on purpose. But
come on, it must have been. You can't tell me that happened by accident.
But we actually worked on something, and actually these values were the closest one to who my co-founder Julian and I are actually as individuals.
Yeah.
And then after, we started, evangelizing them, and everybody was like, we believe in that, so that's fine, actually. In 7 years, so we must be doing something.
Must be doing something right.
Correct.
Well, well done.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm looking forward to watching the business continue to grow. Obviously, our relationship is growing at the same time, so it's awesome. And we will get you back on when you hit the next country, I think.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.